Hi everyone, I'm Kailey Diedrick은, the Global Records Manager for the WSSA, and I've got Aaron with me, who's also from the WSSA. Say hi, Aaron.
Hello.
We're going to look at a few 333 videos, and we're going to show you the process of what we look at during video review.
The 333 is such a weird stack, so we see all kinds of problems on these, but it's also really fast, so we just pulled in a bunch of problems for you to look at. All right, let's look at the first one.
All right, so this first video is a clean run. Now we're just skipping right to the attempt so you can see all the parts that we look at in this event. So of course we look at the starting position here. We got to make sure there's no wrists on the timer, and he looks clear. And then we also just look for any contact, and I don't see any contact. We're going to keep going a few frames, and we're going to check for any fingers coming down on the cups. But I see he's starting to lift his hands off the timer, and his fingers are away from the cups. So it's a clean start. All right, in the upstacking phase, you have to release your hands in between each stack because you cannot have hands on two stacks.
And you can't even be touching the next stack until you release the stack prior to it, right?
That's right. You cannot touch anything. So even if you have your hand on it, it would still be a scratch for hands on two stacks. All right, and he has to release in between the upstacking and downstacking phase, and he's good there. Now the downstack is a little different. You have to begin the first stack with two hands before beginning to downstack the second stack, which he did, and he has to use two hands to begin downstacking the second stack before beginning to downstack the third, and he's clear. Okay, we're going to look for the stop. He cannot be holding any cups, so we have to first look for contact on the timer with both hands. That's where we kind of start this process. We do not look at the tournament display at all because there is a slight lag. So let's keep going a few more frames until we see his hands down on the timer. All right, so I'm going to back up one frame. Between these two frames, his hands are definitely down on the timer, and his hands are not holding any cups, so this is a clean stop. Okay.
So that's what the 333 should look like.
Yes. This was a really good example. Now we're going to look at a few examples of stackers who do scratch during this event. The most common scratch, I would say, is probably the hands on two stacks and then the starting and stopping positions. So we're going to start with the hands on two stacks issue. In the upstacking phase, remember that you cannot be touching two stacks at the same time. So let's see her start here. Looks good. All right, she has to release that cup from her left hand before she can touch the second stack. And between these two frames back and forth, you see movement with them both, which means she is touching them both at the same time. And that would be a scratch right there for hands on two stacks. And let's keep going one more frame. And we see her release. So we're in between frames here, so she's clear there. And she does release after her upstack. And let's check the downstack. She began it with two hands, and she began this one with two hands, so we're clear. And she stops, which is fine. Okay, so that's the upstacking example. Now let's take a look at the downstack of the 333, because this one has different rules than the upstack. All right, so her start looks good. She doesn't have any wrists on them, and there's no contact. Okay, she has to release in between, and she does here, and there, and here. Okay, the downstacking, remember you have to start the first one with two hands, and here she does, before she can go on to the second, so she's fine to go on to it, but now she must touch the second stack with her other hand before she can touch the third one. And I already see movement now with the third stack, but her left hand has not touched the second stack. So this is where the infraction incurs. And this is hands on two stacks in the downstacking phase. All right, and she finishes up. All right, so another common scratch we see is the starting position. Remember, you cannot have any contact at all on the cups. So not just holding, but you can't even be touching any cup. All right, so she's got her hands on the timer. She does not have any wrists on the timer, so she's clear there. But notice that left hand, it's getting pretty close. Her fingers are getting really close to the cup. And now I start to see some movement with that left set. So she's clearly touching it. And now we really just have to watch for when she starts the timer, because if she was touching it now and she let go before she started the timer, it would be fine. But you just can't be touching them while the timer is starting. And now she's starting to lift her hands off the timer, but the cup is still moving, so she had contact on that set, and this would be a scratch for starting position.
Now, if she had let go while her hands were still on the timer and didn't touch the cups again as she let off, that would be clean.
That would be clean, yes. It's just while the timer is being started, which means you're lifting off, you cannot have contact. All right, and her up stack looked fine. Let's check that down stack. 2 hands and 2 hands again, so we're clear. And let's check the stop. She's released, her hands are on the timer, and she's fine. All right, so the scratch would have happened for the starting position. All right, so another common one is the stopping position. So remember the stopping position, again, you cannot have any wrists on the timer, but you also cannot be holding the cups. You are allowed to have contact with the cups, just not holding. So let's check the start. I do not see any wrists on there. He's clear, and there is no contact on the cups. So his start looks good. He lets go in between there. He lets go in between there. And now let's check the down stack. We have 2 hands on the first one, and 2. So here's a point where if I go one more frame, it happens at the same time. You see movement with the second set and the third set. In this case, we don't know what happened in between frames, so we have to give him, a clear on this. He's fine. And now let's check the down or the stop. All right, he's not completely down on the timer yet. Notice his right hand. All right, now he's down on the timer, and you see his left hand, he has his arm pretty much on the timer there. So this would be a scratch for stopping position.
We see that a lot for younger stackers because they can just kind of put their arms straight out and they can hit the timer with their arm. For taller stackers, you got to kind of dip down with your knees pretty hard to be able to do that. So it's real common for younger stackers, not so much for older stackers.
Right. Okay, so let's just take a look at one more. And again, we're focusing on the stopping position here. You cannot have arms or wrists on the timer when you stop, and you also cannot be holding the cups when you stop the timer. Okay, so it looks like his wrists are clear from the timer. He's good, and he's not touching any cups. Let's check the lift off from the timer. Okay, he's lifting off, and there's no contact yet. Now there is, so we're good. He lets go in between, and right here he releases. All right, let's check the down stack. He uses 2 hands to begin the first one, and now he uses 2 hands to begin the second before going on to the third, and here comes the stop. So we're checking to see where he hits his hands on the timer. He hasn't done it yet. Okay, he might be here. Let's go one more to just make sure. Okay, so I'm going to go back one more frame and go forward. I'm just going to go back and forth, and we see here that his right hand has pulled that set towards him in this frame.
It's actually tipping up off the mat again, it looks like.
Yeah, and so it's clear that he's doing this. He's pulling it, and that must mean he's holding on to it in between these 2 frames here. So this stop is a scratch for holding. Okay. So those are the most common things, again, with 3-3 is the hands on 2 stacks, remembering the difference between the up stacking phase and the down stacking phase, and then just the starting and stopping hand positions.
Yeah, and again, this was not an exhaustive list of all of the rules that we have, of course. This is kind of an advanced course. Check out our other videos. They go into other things in more detail for the different stacks, doubles, relay. Check those out, and we'll see you on the next video.
See ya.